Hi, I'm James from Solihull Music Service, and today I'm just going to do a little lesson on basic hi-hat control. So this is all about opening and closing the hi-hat in a basic form. I've got a nice little accompanying worksheet to go with this. First of all, I should just explain some of the terminology. As we close the hi-hat, and any closed hi-hats are going to be labelled as a plus. If you see a plus at the start of a bar, it means the rest of those hi-hats are going to be closed hi-hats until you see a circle, which is the sign for an open hi-hat. So that's labelled on the sheet, and that's how you're going to understand it. First one we're going to go for then, number one, we're going to open the hi-hats on the and of 4. So that's going to be after the last snare of the bar. And we're going to close the hi-hat again on beat 1. So that means as you close the hi-hat, the bass drum's coming down on beat 1. So both feet together. It makes it quite easy. So this is number 1. I'll start off nice and slow and I'll do my counting. You can either count it 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and as you'd expect, or I tend to make it a little bit more logical and say when the hi-hat's opening or closing. Here goes, exercise 1. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, open 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, open close, and 2 and 3 and 4, open close, and 2 and 3 and 4, open close. So that's exercise 1. Next we're going to move on to 1B. Pretty much the same thing, slight variation. We're going to open the hi-hat on the and of 2 this time. So it's in the middle of the bar with the open hi-hat rather than at the end. Again, hi-hat's going to close with the bass drum on beat 3. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, open close and 4 and 1 and 2, open close and 4 and 1 and 2, open close and 4 and I should say as well, nice little tip, when you hit the open hi-hat, in fact it's 2 tips in this one, when you hit the open hi-hat, it's a good idea to play it on the shoulder or the edge of the hi-hat. You just get a clearer sound. Sometimes can be a little bit quiet if you use the tip of the stick on there. So I tend to hit it almost like an accent on the edge. Also, this is more relevant with electric kits, but try and open the hi-hat before you hit it. If you open the hi-hat as you hit it, sometimes electric hi-hat pads can be a bit temperamental, so it can ruin the pattern a little bit. So I always try and open it just before I hit it, and that means you get a nice clear open hi-hat sound. Okay, so on to pattern 2. This time we're going to be opening on the and of 3, and we're going to close with the snare drum. So this time as we bring the left foot down to close it, it's with the snare. Okay, it goes like this. 1 and 2 and 3, open close, and 1 and 2 and 3, open close, and 1 and 2 and 3, open close, and... Okay, so that's exercise 2. Just like exercise 1. 2B is going to be a slight variation of it, and we're going to open it on the and of 1. So on this one, 2B, we're going to hit like that, open the hi-hat, and then close with the snare. Here goes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So it's 1, open, close, and 3 and 4, and 1, open, close, and 3 and 4, and 1, open, close, and 3 and 4. And... Okay, moving on to exercise 3. This one, we're going to keep the open hi-hat open for a quarter note. So between 3 and 4, the hi-hat is open. We're going to close it with the snare on 4. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And notice I'm not hitting the and of 3. As I open it on 3, I'm just letting the hi-hat ring out. So 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. And moving on to 3B, this is going to be the open hi-hat on beat 1. And again, we're letting it ring, so it's just a variation of 3. We're going to go 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And quite a good reference for this one I've put on the sheet is Addicted to Love by Robert Palmer. Quite an iconic drum track. The song starts with drums. Some versions of the song have like this extra beat in there. It's an extra quarter note, I think, put in at the intro. So the hi-hat actually moves position, but I think most versions of it are like this. and so on. But yeah, good reference. If you want a song to play along to for that one, that's a good one. And there are a few other reference tracks I've put on there for you. Okay, moving on to exercise 4. This time we're going to open in the same position as 3, so it's on beat 3, but we're going to close on the next 8th note. So on the and of 3, we're closing the hi-hat. That means we're going to close the hi-hat without anything else with it. So straight after, so you're going to open the hi-hat on 3, 3, close the hi-hat, so the left foot's working on its own, or with the right hand anyway, then the snare, and then the and. So we're going to go 1 and 2 and open, close, snare, and 1 and 2 and open, close, snare, and 1 and 2 and open, close, snare. So that's exercise 4. Again, 4B, we're going to move the open hi-hat to the first beat of the bar. Again, quite a nice sound. If you think of Walk This Way, this is played in this sort of way. It's like... So it's got that sort of pinched sound to it. So we're going to go 1, open, and 3, and 4, and open, close, snare, and 3, and 4, and open, close, snare, and 3, and 4, and open, close, snare, and 3, and 4, and... Okay, moving on to 5. So this is where it starts to get tricky. Exercise 5. Ideally, what we want to get to by the end of this sheet is the typical disco hi-hat pattern, and that's something like this. You can play it with offbeat hi-hats, or so an offbeat right hand or a constant 8th note right hand. Sounds pretty much the same either way. Just save a bit of energy if you just do the offbeats. But to build up to that full-on disco pattern, exercises 5 and 5B are going to be really good because we've got 2 open hi-hats in there. So this is a good one. It might take a little bit longer to get these, but so you've got 2 open hi-hats. The hi-hat's going to be open on the and of 1 and the and of 3. So it's going to be 1, open, close, and 3, open, close, and 1, open, close, and 3, open, close, and 1, open, close, and 3, open, close, and 1, open, close, and 3, open, close. So that's pattern 5 for you. Moving on to pattern 5B. Same thing, but we're going to open the hi-hat on the and of 2 and the and of 4. Yeah, this is a good one as well. Here you go. So 1 and 2, open, close, and 4, and 1 and 2, open, close, and 4, open, close, and 2, open, close, and 4, open, close, and 2, open, close, and 4, open, close. So yeah, that's quite a handy one. So that's leading up to the all-important disco pattern. If you've heard a load of dance tracks, a load of old 70s disco, Chic, Sister Sledge, Disco Inferno, loads of songs, got this really iconic disco beat. You get it on quite a few indie tracks as well. Girls and Boys by Blur, Take Me Out by Franz Ferdinand have this beat in there. Really important one to learn. It gives it a nice dancey sort of feel to it. So exercise 6 is the disco feel beat, just with a typical bass drum pattern on 1 and 3. So this isn't your 4 on the floor. A lot of disco patterns do have the 4 on the floor pattern. This one hasn't. Might be a little bit easier to start with. Some people might find it harder, but let's have a go with it. So hi-hat with this one is constantly opening and closing. A good exercise to do before you start this is just try hitting the hi-hat closed and then open, closed, then open. So start with it closed, hit it, open, closed, open, closed, open, closed, open, closed. Now, you might need to do that for a good 5-10 minutes, maybe more. That's going to take a bit of time. The left foot is one of those parts of the kit, or right foot if you're left-handed, of course, but the left foot's one of the parts that does get neglected sometimes, especially in the beginner stages. So it's a good thing to get working on, and this is going to really work your left foot. A lot of people complain to me about their left foot getting really tired because most of the time it's just closed on the pedal. So we're going to go, where are we? Here we go. So we got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's the basic pattern. You can hear those offbeat hi-hats clearly. So next stage is the 4 on the floor. Exactly the same beat. This is exercise 7. This is the same beat but with a 4 on the floor beat. If you haven't heard already, 4 on the floor just means that the bass drum's doing that. It's playing on the quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Most 4 on the floor beats have a backbeat on 2 and 4. So your backbeat's the normal place where the snare is played in most rock beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your basic 4 on the floor beat, if you don't know it already. And we're going to add the disco hi-hat pattern to this. This is a tricky pattern, 4-way coordination the whole time, quite tricky. Here goes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, so that's the full-on pattern. You might want to start it much slower. I'll play a nice slow version for you now. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And if you're lazy like me, you might just want to play the offbeats with the right hand like this. It's written with 8th notes like this. That's probably the easier one to coordinate, or do the offbeats like this if you want to save a bit of energy. So that's pattern 7. And then just to finish things off, I've given you a few groove variations. So these are 4 basic beats that you can try out different hi-hat patterns with. A good idea eventually is to try all of these patterns, all these open hi-hat patterns with all your favourite beats. So there shouldn't be a limit to really which beats you can play it with as an eventuality, as the end outcome, let's say. So groove variation A. So we just got your typical rock beat, boom, da, boom, boom, da. Put the open hi-hat on the end. Pretty easy, this one. Hopefully most people won't have a problem with this. So this is pattern A. 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3 and 4, open, close. 2, 3 and 4, open, close. Moving on to pattern B. So again, another common 8th note variation beat. Boom, da, boom, boom, da. 1, 2 and 3, 4. And we're going to open the hi-hat on the and of 3. So we're going to go 1, 2 and 3 and 4. And 1, 2 and 3, open, close. And 1, 2 and 3, open, close. And 1, 2 and 3, open, close. That's pattern B. Pattern C, we keep with the same beat, but we're trying to, we're opening the hi-hat in 2 different places. So this is quite a tricky one. We're going to go 1, 2, open, close, and 4. And 1, 2, open, close, open, 4. I've forgotten to put that one on there. And then moving on to pattern D. So this one, open hi-hat for the first quarter note. So the hi-hat's going to ring like that for the first beat, and then we're going to close it on beat 2 with the snare. Again, can be a little bit tricky this, because you've got to think of the opening of the hi-hat as well as the groove, but it shouldn't be too bad. Let's have a go with this. So we're going to go 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and... Got quite a nice sound to it. I'll play that a little bit faster. Okay, so that finishes off this lesson. Hopefully that'll be what I've shown you will be quite helpful. It's good to add a little bit of spice, a little bit of variation to your beats. Hopefully you'll have fun with it, and I'll do another video for you soon. Cheers.